All right. Hello, hello, hello. On this episode of our Crazy Family Adventure podcast, we are going to share 14 questions to ask yourself before making the decision to travel full-time with your family. That was a long heading.
Yep.
But yes, we think this is a great list for you to think about and questions to ask yourself before deciding if this is going to be a good fit for your family. So, without further ado, we will jump right into the list.
Jump into it.
You ready for it?
I'm ready. I'm going to do number one.
All right, you do number one.
Okay. Number one. Survey says, do you like your family? That's a day-to-day answer for me. No, I guess the real question is, do you like them enough to be with them 24/7, 7 days a week? That's basically 24/7 is, right?
Yep.
And I don't think many people really truly know that answer because they're just not with their family that much, that often. And it's intense. I mean, we're in a very small space, right?
Yes. No, I think when a family is at home in what we call a sticks and bricks, which is a house, that usually the dad is going off to work or the mom is going off to work. Maybe the kids are already homeschooled, maybe not. But the idea of the whole family, mom, dad, and the kids all being together in this small space is something for you to really consider and think about, because there are definitely challenges that come into play with that. So we think it's totally worth it, and it's one of our favorite parts about it, even though at times it's also one of the most challenging things about it. But we do think it's a good thing to ask yourself and really talk about between you and your spouse and your kids, and kind of everyone know that you're on the same page with this, going into this lifestyle.
Yeah, because
Sorry,
kids. That's the door. We're with them all the time. They never leave us. No, but let's be honest. Sometimes you need a break from your kids, and sometimes your kids need a break from you. And that doesn't happen as often now as it would as if you lived in a house, because there you can get a babysitter. Typically you're by mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, or, some other family that can maybe watch them for a while. That's not the case so much on the road. So
I think it can be, but it just takes a little bit more work with it. It's meeting other families on the road, maybe swapping for babysitting, or like in our case, my parents do travel full time, but it's more of a challenge trying to find that and get that set up. But I think it definitely is possible. It's just a little bit more of a challenge. So anyways,
yes.
Number one, most important thing to think about is, do you like your family? All right, moving on to number two. Is your body ready for it? This one kind of took us by surprise when we first hit the road, because we are both in decent shape. We work out. We try to be good about what we eat, all that stuff. And yet we found it pretty exhausting being on the road. And I think what's exhausting about it is when you are moving your rig from one campground to the other, there's a decent amount of work that goes into getting it packed up, getting things put away, doing all of that. And then when you go out exploring, you're usually out hiking or walking for a big part of the day, going and visiting museums or going to amusement parks or things like that. So there's just a lot of physical activity that comes into being on the road. So I think it's important to also consider that if you are not in the best of shape, there may be times that it's a little harder than maybe you're expecting. So it's something good to keep in mind.
Yeah, and the storage bays and things you got to get into are very tight and compact, and usually have things crammed in places. So you got to kind of contort your body to get to this stuff. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun having my legs hang out of our storage bay while I'm trying to grab a hammer or something. Good times.
All right, number three, are you a planner? So this is something that you definitely can ignore, because when you are on the road full time, you have to always be thinking about where you're going to be staying that night, since unless you have a spot at a campground that you booked out for 6 months or a year or something, you don't have reservations just made for you. So you have to be out there making reservations and figuring out where you're going to stay. So granted, if you want to plan your year ahead, which we know people do, you may end up spending, a day or two really putting your whole list together and scheduling everything out and get everything planned. Or if you're like us, we plan like maybe a month ahead of time. So it's kind of constantly in our heads to be planning and figuring out what we're going to do. And you have to know where you're going to stay that night. And there are boondocking places and places you can stay for free that help. But for the most part, you have to be able to plan and look and figure out where you're going to be staying so you have somewhere to park your rig that night.
And don't get me started on Florida in the winter.
We need to do a whole separate podcast on Florida in the winter.
Don't get me started.
We're down here with all the snowbirds right now, and it's definitely an interesting thing. So we'll get on to that at some point with the whole podcast episode on that. Okay.
Number 4, are you ready to not be on vacation? So when you hit the road, you're all excited, you're pumped up. It's a new kind of lifestyle. And what comes along with that is a feeling of being on vacation. And after a while, the expense of that can really take a toll on your family and the lifestyle. So you have to kind of make it a life. Like, you got to live your life on the road, and sometimes that means not doing all the touristy stuff or going out to eat all the time at these really cool restaurants that you see, you know, that you just pulled into. It's something that we had to learn pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's also that idea that there's going to be down days, and that you will need down days, your kids will need down days where you're literally not doing anything. Maybe go to the pool for a couple hours, you can just come back and hang out in your rig or outside, just coloring and hanging out, and just remembering it's not vacation. But I know some people have a hard time with the fact that they feel like they'll never be back at this location again in their life, so they want to try to do everything and anything they can when they are there. And we would highly recommend not approaching it that way and just assuming if it is a place you really like and enjoy, you will make it back there again at some point in your future. So it is hard to kind of change your mindset to sometimes like be like you're on vacation, but really for the majority of the time you're not, and this is just your life, and it's a new lifestyle that you're learning how to live.
Yeah, and I think that's why national parks and state parks are so popular among the full-time travelers, because it's very inexpensive to get a year pass at a national park, and there's a ton of stuff to do there and see. So
totally. Yeah, you will find free stuff. We definitely did that for a long time, just Googling free things to do in St. Augustine, Florida, and you find the free things to do in the areas as well. But again, remembering down days are good. It's important not to be busy all the time, and it's important just to enjoy those downtimes as well. All right, number 5, are you prepared to be homesick? We've met a few people on the road that said this was not a thing for them. They were happy to get up and leave. Maybe they had lived in a city where they'd only been there for a short time before they got on the road, whatever it may be. But in our situation, we came on the road after leaving the hometown where my parents had grown up in. Craig's whole family had moved there when he was in high school, so we had a lot of history there, a lot of people we knew, a lot of family. So when you're on the road, you definitely do get homesick for even just the familiarity of the town, maybe or city you came from, but also the people. You miss your friends, you miss your family. Like, that's something to just be aware of and know, like, that's going to be there and that's not going to go away, and it's okay to have those feelings. And if it's something that you and your family talk about and decide that you want to maybe consistently go back, so maybe once a year you go back, once every 6 months you go back, I think there's ways that you can work through it. But I also think part of growing on the road is trying to really enjoy this lifestyle and know that the homesickness, you can do the video calls, you can, phone calls and things like that, but it's also okay to be on the road and be enjoying the life that you're choosing to live.
Yeah, really. Yeah, jump in with both feet, because a lot of people keep one foot back in their hometown and one foot on the road, and you can't really get anything living that way. I did that for a while, and it wasn't good for our family. I just wasn't present all the time. So I would say go in, do it. But then on the flip side of that, when you do go home to visit, it makes them more special. And usually in this lifestyle, you can spend more time with them when you go back, because you're not working, and your lifestyle is different than it was when you lived there. So there's a flip side to that coin.
Yeah, well, you weren't working.
I don't work. I
Most
was working
people would
when we
still
lived
go
home.
back and work.
Oh, well, I'm saying when we lived in the same town as my parents, we didn't see them as often or as intensely or even as much, I don't think, that we do now. Yeah,
because now when we go back, we usually park in their driveway or stay in their basement, so we're spending huge amounts of time with them, where before we wouldn't have done that. So I think that's a great point.
Ma, more meatloaf!
Yeah. All right. Number 6. Are you ready to question and doubt yourself? Again, we've met some people on the road that say they've never done this, but I know for us, this has been something that has been with us the whole time we've been on the road. Yeah. It'll be 6 years in May, and I feel like we're finally kind of crossing into a point of just saying, like, all right, we're feeling good. Like, we know the route we're going to go, versus having a lot of questions and doubts throughout the years where we just said, oh my gosh, did we totally screw our kids up? Are we screwing our family up? Like, in tears, like just bawling, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did this to them. And this may have been for us 2, 3, 4 years into it. Those feelings hadn't totally gone away. So I think especially in the beginning, like kind of that honeymoon phase, the first couple months, you don't really feel it. And then once you kind of realize, holy crap, like this is our life, you kind of hit a point where you may go, is this the right thing or isn't it the right thing? Or, oh, I miss my bathtub, or I miss my house, or my kids miss having like a huge dining room table to play their Legos on. Like all these things may start creeping in that make you really doubt your decisions and your choices. So I know for us, a big way around that was to always think about our why, that we were doing this for more family time, for freedom, for being able to travel, and really just continuing to have that conversation with each other about it.
Yeah, and I think even now, after almost 6 years of living on the road, we still think this and we still question it because our family dynamic and our family needs have changed. Our kids are getting older, so they want some more space and more privacy, and they're into different things like sports and stuff. So we kind of ask ourselves, are we still doing the right thing for everybody, even though they like those new kind of things? So it's always something to kind of keep a pulse on.
Yeah, and I think it's that idea too, whenever you're doing something that's not like the normal, so like the majority of people aren't doing this. Yes, there's a lot of people out there doing it, but not the majority. So then it really makes you question it because this path isn't really defined. Versus if you are back in a house and you're kind of doing the school, the sports, like the things like everyone around you is doing, it is a little bit more defined. I do think as parents, no matter what, you're always questioning and doubting things, no matter what your lifestyle is. But there is another factor involved when you go on the road full time because it's so different than what the majority of people are doing.
That is a great segue into number 7. So she's like a podcast pro, I think, because she just segued it right into number 7. Are you okay being the oddball? So, yeah, you're the weird family that lives in a van down by the river. You know, it's kind of one of those things.
Cousin Eddie.
Cousin Eddie rolling in for Christmas. Can be here for 5 weeks. Don't go falling in love with it, Clark. But no, seriously, like it's so different. Most people stay in their, hometown or even, move to different towns because of work or whatever. But usually they're in a house and they have some sort of a community and some sort of a schedule and a 9 to 5, and even just homeschooling your kids is a little bit different. But we just said, what the heck, let's just get real weird on everybody. And sometimes you feel that. Sometimes you get that when you go back and, some people think it's really cool and they admire it. Other people are kind of like, what are you doing? So.
Yeah, totally. So it's just really accepting, like being okay with the fact that you're going to be the different one, the oddball, the weird one in the room. But we also feel like it's a really special thing to be that oddball and be that weird person, and that it's part of what we admire and love about it too, is the fact that we are doing something so different. So it is a cool thing. It's a good thing to be the oddball. Okay, number 8. Are you ready to be changed forever? I don't think when we got on the road, I think we were in the honeymoon phase as we were planning and getting ready for it when we first got on the road, and we didn't really realize how much it was going to change us as people and also help us to grow, not just our kids, but me and Craig individually, as a couple, as a family, but definitely living in such a small space. And definitely also just doing the amount of different type of traveling you're doing and just having to work through things. You are definitely going to be changed forever. And I think that just is part of it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this obviously takes a lot of stretching your comfort zone, this kind of lifestyle, and you're putting yourself out there quite a bit. So that changes you. And it's kind of for the better, I think. I mean, it gets you, used to situations that you may not have felt real comfortable in before, but now you do. And I think that's always a good thing in your life to kind of grow that way.
Yeah, I think it also, you face fears, you push your comfort zone. Like, I think originally your comfort zone may start out smaller and then it kind of grows, and then the longer you're on the road and the more things you do, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, which I think is really cool, and you're less afraid of things. And I think even for our kids, like, it's the same thing. Like, they just think we can go anywhere and do anything, and I think that's an amazing thing that we are giving to them.
Yes, totally.
All right, number 9, kind of in line with that.
Yes. Are you ready to awaken your wanderlust bug?
Yes. We were not as ready for this either, I don't think, of the idea that once you get on the road and kind of see all these cool, amazing things you can do, now to imagine to ever go back to our old life just seems like we couldn't do it, because we can't not be out exploring and traveling and doing things. It doesn't mean we won't settle down at some point, but if we did settle down, I think it would be with the intention to still travel for multiple months out of the year and continue to live some sort of this lifestyle, because once you've done it, I don't know if you can go back.
Yeah, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube.
Gosh.
All right. Number 10.
Can you leave simple behind? So this may be a little what's the right word for that? Counterintuitive?
Yeah.
That you might think that being on the road life is more simple, which in a lot of ways it is. It's a smaller space.
Well, let's not confuse simple with intentional. So I think that's an easy thing to do here, because you think like, oh, I have a few things, I don't have all my stuff, and like, it's easy, I'm just going to go where I want to go. But we're living intentionally. We have the stuff that we need just because we've chosen that. So don't confuse that with simplicity.
Right. And then also the thing about leaving simple behind is the idea that you don't just have a house to go back to at the end of the night. You have to plan where you're going to go. You're going to be getting into new locations and new cities all the time. So you have to find out where the nearest grocery store is, where the post office is, where the hospital is, like all of those type of things. Like the things that when you're from one location and you can just basically like drive from point A to B without even thinking about where you're driving because you're so used to doing it, that goes away. So some of those simple things just are not the same when you come on the road full time. So kind of to go hand in hand with that, are you able to leave the structure you are used to? So you can come on the road and make your life somewhat mirror what you did when you were in a sticks and bricks, if you are going to be very structured with your homeschooling and structured with your work lifestyle and structured with like when you have family meals and things like that. But for us, we did the exact opposite. And we think that's part of why we grew and are continuing to grow so much on the road, is that we're actually going through something that we termed de-lifing. So de-lifing in the sense of that we didn't want to have that real structure anymore. We didn't want to have to get up at a certain time every day. We didn't want to have to be stuck to a specific schedule. But instead, if we woke up one day and we were like, oh, we just saw this, like someone just told us about this great activity we can go do, or let's just go do it. And we could just up and go do it. We didn't have to follow this really super like structured lifestyle. So I think if you want it structured, you can make it that way, but our recommendation is don't. Like while you're on the road enjoying this lifestyle, like enjoy it to the full extent.
Yeah, I agree. And I think even like other families we meet either have different structures or none at all. And like our kids just want to play with their kids and like hang out with them. So it's hard to even set a structure because like it just gets totally disrupted every time we meet people or so. And
it's constantly changing. We might go to a campground when just our family is there. Maybe we get into a little bit of routine or structure for a while. And then we go to another campground where there's 20 kids there and things change. We go to another campground and visit my parents. And I think it's good to be able to be flexible and not have to have such a strict structure, because then you're going to miss a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to let you do this one. This is your favorite.
No, you make fun of me for this one, so you do it.
Okay, can you grocery shop in an unfamiliar grocery store?
This is a big one.
I don't think it's as big as you think it is.
Okay, well, you guys can comment and tell me what you guys think. But for
Please do.
When we were back in our hometown and I go grocery shopping, I knew what brand I got. I knew what aisle it was in. I knew what I wanted. I could quickly get through there and grab all the stuff I want. Well, now when you're going to all these different grocery stores across the country, or maybe sometimes just grocery shopping at a Walmart, which is not easy to do, it is hard to find the brands and the specific things that you want. So it becomes overwhelming. But you know what I've done in this now? I've just turned it over and said Craig can do the grocery shopping because he thinks it's easy. So
yep, and I do it, and guess what? I get away from my family for a while, so we can go back to number one, and you can use that time to have alone time.
Except for when all 6 of us go grocery shopping, and then it is a chaotic mess.
I read the labels. I talk to the gal at the checkout counter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you know.
Uh-huh.
Super nice. Okay. Number 13. Can you be a Mr. or Mrs. Fixit? While you're traveling like this, a lot of the times your house is moving at 60 miles an hour down the road, so things get shaken up and they break. And to be honest, the RVs are just not built, you know, with the quality that you'd expect. So things do break, and you can spend a lot of money by having people fix it all the time, or you can just kind of get your hands dirty and do it yourself. I'd recommend trying it. YouTube is a great resource for finding how to fix things, or, you know, there's other Facebook groups that you can post a question on, and no matter what time of day it is, you'll most likely get an answer. So there's great resources on how to do all this stuff. It's really just getting over the fear of doing it. But I'd recommend doing it. It's satisfying too when you can fix something that you didn't think you could fix, or you saved yourself a lot of money by doing it yourself. So
yeah, and I think on the road too, we've come across a lot of RV, what are they called? RV techs. Mm-hmm. So people that are on the road full time, and then for their job, they actually get certified to be an RV technician. So usually in a campground, there's going to be someone there that knows RVs that you have to pay them for it, or they may stop over. We've had times and they just stop over and spend 20 minutes just talking to us and looking at it, and then don't even charge us and are like on your way, since the RV community is usually really helpful with each other and wants to just help each other out. Mm-hmm. So it is something to be aware of. Things will get broken and things will happen that you'll have to fix. So just go into it knowing that that is part of the lifestyle. All right, number 14. Are you ready to have the most amazing venture of your life with your family by your side? So yes, all of this to be said that this lifestyle is amazing, and the fact that you are going to do it with your kids, with your family. You're not going to wait till you retire and your kids are gone. You're doing it along with your family is an amazing thing, and we can't stress enough just how cool it is, how much of a game changer it is for your family, and all the growth we've seen with us, with our kids, all the amazing places we've seen. Like, it is definitely amazing and well worth it. And our big thing, I think, is just to embrace all of the things that we just talked about, and embrace the chaos, embrace the unknown, embrace the just unstructured style of this lifestyle, and just enjoy it, and basically do it for the joy. Don't do it to be super structured and super on top of everything, but just do it to enjoy the time with your family, enjoy each other, enjoy traveling, and enjoy just being on the road. Yeah,
and I think it's a great way to really get to know your kids and your spouse, even, because you're uncomfortable in this, they feel that, they're uncomfortable, and if you get through that together, it brings you to a different level in your relationship. So it's definitely a cool way to kind of live and grow together as a family, and to just experience all these cool things together. I don't think many people get to do that. Like, they do the vacations maybe once or twice a year, you know, for a week or weekends here and there. But this is a lot of time spent together, and it's a lot of quality time. So
totally. So we definitely think that it is well worth it, and that these 14 questions we just wanted to put out there as things for you to think about. So when you do hit the road, that you feel like you are ready to go and prepared for these things and can just enjoy it. But don't get us wrong. There's going to be things that are enjoyable when you're on the road. It's not all rainbow and sunshine. It is not perfect. We'll be the first ones to say that, but that's okay. Embrace that chaos. Embrace that unperfectness, and just really focus on the joy.
I agree.
Sound good?
That sounds great.
All right, so that is a wrap on this podcast. So we will be back again in a week to share the next one with you. And I think I know what that next one is going to be, but I also feel like I'm not sure if I always want to share exactly what the next one is going to be in case we do a little bit of a turnaround and decide to go with something different.
Ooh,
so,
surprise episode.
Well, no, what we were going to talk about is that over the last 5+ years of traveling, it'll be 6 years in May, we have been in 4 different RVs. So we thought we could talk about some of that and about what the 4 different RVs we had were, what we liked about them, what we didn't like about them. So that may be what's up next week. If that isn't next week, it will be in one of the upcoming podcasts. But hopefully you guys found this one useful, and please do leave a review, ask us questions, whatever it may be, so that we can try to make this the best that we can for you so that you find it to be super helpful either if you're on the road or planning on getting on the road.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking we could do an episode of door slamming for 25 minutes.
Yeah, we get a lot of door slams in here. It's all good. That's just part of the reality. Embrace the chaos. Embrace that it's just the lifestyle. It is what it is. We work from our rig.
Okay.
All right. Well, we will catch you guys later. Bye.